Hello everyone, my name is BigHeroSixy. Dragonflight Alpha is underway and there is a lot of excitement to be had. The only thing missing from this week of testing was a dungeon to do, so I decided to try and find out where the Azure Span dungeon is going to be located. Luckily for us, it appears to be an outdoor dungeon, so we can see the layout of it and run through it. Now it's important to let you guys know, this is all guesswork on my part, but I think I've got a pretty good idea what the dungeon is going to look like because it's in an outdoor zone similar to Azshara Freehold, but please forgive me if I'm wrong about anything I'm about to say. Now let's continue. So my first step trying to find out where the dungeon is was to find the pair of portals in the zone. The first one, as you can see, is in Azshara. This is where it is on the map. This is a quest hub and also the home of some Tuskar here. I know where the other portal is, and it's over here. I will fly over there really fast. So we are here at the portal to the dungeon. You can see in the top right corner, it says Brackenhide Hollow. Most likely this is similar to Azshara. And we are able to move freely outside because it's an outside dungeon, but there's no mobs here yet. It's completely empty, probably because it's not done. And we have these Tuskar carvings on the side of the land here, forming a welcoming dock of some sort. We come up the hill, we see two pathways that we can choose from, so we're thinking about M+ here. Most likely the mob density might be higher on one side. You may prefer to kill the mobs on one side depending on what they're composed of, how many there are. Do you want to spend more time at the start versus the end, things like that, what's better for your comp, blah blah blah. You move on through. And then we come up to this big hole in the pathway here with something that looks like an arena. You know, it looks very much like an arena here. And there is something like a gate that is missing. And the reason I think it is a gate here is because of what is in the dungeon journal. It is called Hacklaw's Warband. This is what they look like. They have placeholder names right now. Apparently one's a warrior, one's a shaman, one is a rogue. That is their archetype. They will probably have names later. But in the lore, it says here that Rathai, the bad guy here, has them guarding the gate to the hollow. So this is like the outskirts. This is how people come in. They do trade. Well, the Tuskar probably did. I don't think the Gnolls are doing that. The Gnolls are presented to be very dumb. Besides, I guess, the higher-ups. I really wonder how that is. You know, that's off topic, but anyway. So it looks like this will be the arena. It's going to look like a council fight. You kill them. Probably this gate opens up and we can move on through. Now, I think this dungeon is going to have more bosses than what is listed here because of this split pathway. And it could be potentially that you have a choice here or one side is locked sometimes when you do this dungeon, so you have to go this way only. I don't think that'll be the case. From what I understand, looking at all the other dungeons in Dragonflight right now, you notice like some aren't even up. You know, there's 4 there, there's 3 here, there's 1 here. I looked back at Shadowlands dungeons to be like, well, how many had 3, how many had 4? Most of them have 4 or more. And I just think it's not done yet. They're probably still designing it. They don't have this up. And most likely there's going to be a boss this way. But the bosses that are listed going this way down the path, I think very possibly is going to be one of the bosses that is listed. So we come up the path up here. You can see there's a lot of extra ways to go. This side is a lot different than the other side. There's a lot of death and decay here, which looking at the lore, the bad guy is trying to poison the life spring. And you see as we step in, I get Rotting Creek. It is a dot. And I'm standing in here. I leave, I'm fine. So that adds to the damage you're going to be taking with M+ affixes. If there's a lot of knockbacks in this dungeon, if you have to worry about things flying everywhere and you have to move to the left, it's like you have to care about your positioning. So I think that's a clever way to have that happen. Some dungeons in the past have something similar, but I like it. I'm curious to see how hard it hits in Mythic. If the different difficulties make it hit harder, it probably will. this is this just leads to the mainland. I checked this earlier. I think this will be blocked off in the actual dungeon, because if you look at the way some of these outdoor dungeons they're designed, usually the dungeon itself is a different version, and you see things blocking you. Freehold is a good example of this. And then we end up here. If you go up here, this is where some quests were done, so most likely this will be blocked up too. But this looks like the second boss arena, depending on which way you go. And the boss's name is Treemouth. Most of the mechanics here, there's Infectious Spit, there's a Vine Whip. Most of the mechanics, not to go too thorough into it, but explain what's probably going to happen. Let's try and get an aerial shot here. You know, you pull the boss. Let's show what he looks like really fast. Looks like this. Kind of silly. Kind of reminds me of Nightmare Before Christmas, you know, looking at it right now. I don't know why I'm thinking about that. Also drops slimes. That being said, you have mechanics that there are a ton of knockbacks in this fight, so you can look back at other dungeons. For example, you know, there's a Shadowlands dungeon with a lot of toxic goo everywhere. You have to worry about being knocked back into it. You're going to take damage. And this is very similar. There's knockbacks on a Tank Buster. There are knockbacks with just other skills in general during this fight. And there also the slimes are going to drop goo on the ground, and that's going to cover up parts of the arena, so you only have so much room to work with. I'm not sure if you're going to be blocked off when you step in here. You may. That causes a lot of issues, because if you could just kite back, then, like, you know, who cares? Most likely something's going to happen here that stops you from leaving this arena. And you see vines here. I'll get back to that in a second. And the reason I think there's actually going to be more than 3 bosses is going down this pathway. This looks like a separate pathway. It leads to Treemouth if he's over there. And it comes from down here. You can see that the alternative path here. I'm going to go through it quickly. This looks like you could fight a lot of mobs. Mob density might be higher here. You go up, you go up, you go around. And then you come up here. And then you could... well, the boss is going to be right here. We might as well go do that now. And then you can go straight across here. So, not sure if there will be a boss here. I don't think Treebeard will look here. It doesn't look like it matches his moveset or anything like this. But this looks like there could be something in this cave. It could be a creature. It could be a big knoll. You know, there's these fish bones around here. Curious to see what that's about. Then you have vines right here. So what I think is going to happen, you choose which way you want to go. Whichever one you kill first, the vines are going to stay, and you have to cross across and then go to the next boss, kill it, and then both the vines will fall. That's going to be the goal to move forward to the final boss in this area. It actually pushed me back a little bit. So we got this path. Probably more pulls here, depending on what you're looking at. Kind of tight and narrow. Don't know how many pulls would be here. Come into this big cave, and you have a lot of stone. I don't want to say architecture. That's the wrong word. But the environment, I think these might be geysers because of what abilities the final boss has. Because they don't look like... Okay, well, let's think here. Stalactites, stalagmites. Tights are on the top, right? Is that the way you find them out? I'm thinking out loud right now. But, yeah, they don't look like those. So I think they're just geysers. This whole area is full of geysers. And then you come up here. I actually think the boss fight might be down here, or it might be a multi-phase fight. Maybe there's a mini-boss there. And then it leads up here. You have some water back here. And then you have this huge altar that looks pretty creepy. It's obviously not fully textured, so they're probably still working on the dungeon, for example. But it goes into the lore of the zone as you go through the storyline, what this possibly could be. And then you look at the abilities. This is the boss, Decatriarch, I think that's how you say it, Rathai. And then it's Rathai here. So I think they're wondering which version they're going to use, but, you know, maybe this is a holdover from earlier. But the lore here, Rathai discovered decay magic in her thirst for power and declared herself the Katriarch after mastering it. She now attempts to corrupt a life water spring, so Jara Din, Tuskar, and all of the Azure Span will rot in her wake. So, corrupting the life water spring, this may be the source that Rathai created. You look at a lot of the abilities for this fight. You have an aura of decay. Life water will remove some of the rot, and that pours down and cleanses 1 stack of withering rot. So wherever this is gonna fall, maybe the fight actually happens up here, and you see some of the drippy drips. Maybe it comes out of these. If these are geysers, I hope they are. I'm gonna look stupid if they're not. Then there's a few other abilities here. Ropper's Totem. This might be just a giant version of that totem, and they drop smaller versions of it. You have a Rotting upsurge of decay to burst from the geysers. That's why I think it's more down here, because there's a lot of geysers down here, and that would create a crazy fight. It could also be a mini boss fight down here. This big old pool. And it's like a teaser for the actual mechanics in the boss fight up here through these geysers. Oh, I just phased through this. And then there's also, I'm walking on it. I just got glitched in there. You have Choking Rock Cloud and Decay Strike, which is a tank alert. But yeah, I think this is definitely where the final boss is going to be. It just seems like it matches up. And let's take a quick look at the other path. If you do Treebeard 3rd, we're operating under the assumption that there will be 4 bosses and not 3 right now. This pathway, well, actually, which one? This pathway, I think, is going to be blocked off, or it's just going to be something extra you kind of do. Like when you, this is kind of a really far back reference, but Dead Mines, and you have the little cave behind the ship that you can go into and exit. I think that's going to be something similar, because it's raised up and there's not really a way to get up there from the ground over here. I had to fly over there. I can't mount yet. 1 second. So let's take a look at the pathway here. More rot. You gotta deal with that. Don't step in it or you're bad at the game. Random little cave hovel here. It looks like dead dragon bones. And then we lead up to another vine door that we saw in the arena earlier. If I can fly over, please don't block me. And then this is where most likely the... Is his name Treebeard? I keep forgetting. I don't know all the names just off the top of my head. Treemouth. Treebeard is from Lord of the Rings. But yeah, this... I think the dungeon looks cool. I'm pretty sure this is what it's going to be like. I'm really curious to see what the pools are going to be like. What... how many actual bosses there going to be, because right now there's 3. It feels like there should be 4. There could possibly be 5. I'm not sure where the placements might be if there is 5, but you never know. It looks pretty cool to me. I like the design here. Honestly, so far, like, we've only been in one zone, but this feels more like World of Warcraft to me than Shadowlands did, at least from just looking at things, being in the zones, the design of the zones. There's some really cool dragon towers and stuff in this zone, and this just feels like it belongs in the game, you know. Nothing against the more sci-fi oriented things, you know, that's been a large part of Warcraft over the years, but this is just my personal preference. It feels like we're going on an adventure again, you know. And yeah, so just a few theories about what the dungeon's gonna be. Brackenhide Hollow. Hopefully I'm correct and not completely wrong. But yeah, I appreciate you guys for watching, and I hope you have a good day. Thank you so much.